What's hot, viewers? Well, today's video is very special because today I'm taking you to a place you didn't even know existed in Bombay. Located in the hustle and bustle of Churni Road, I'm taking you to a quaint Gauthan or East Indian village called Khotachiwadi. So come, let's explore it. So before we begin our exploration, let me give you a little insight into the history of Khotachiwadi. Khotachiwadi is an East Indian heritage village situated in the Churni Road area. This village was established in the late 18th century by a man named Khot who belonged to the Pathare Prabhu Brahmin community. The bubonic plague epidemic, which, as I'm sure you're aware, wiped out one-third of Europe, also came to Bombay around the year 1896. And naturally, like the rest of the world, the residents of this village were very fearful of getting affected because of this epidemic. They actually constructed crosses in order to ensure protection from this epidemic or from this plague. And surprisingly, none of the residents of the village actually got affected. So in order to commemorate this protection that they were provided, they actually constructed chapels. Funnily, a lot of these East Indian villages across Bombay have similar stories. For example, the Ranwar village in Bandra or the Matharpakadi village in Mazgaon also have very similar stories. As you can see, there's an inscription on top of the chapel which reads Apeste libera nos domine, which means, "Oh God, please liberate us from this plague." Even though a little bit ruined now, you can still see the beautifully painted fresco featuring Mother Mary and Jesus surrounded by elephants. Mother Mary in this particular painting is sitting on a lotus, which is very similar to Goddess Lakshmi in the Hindu culture. So through this painting, you can actually see a fusion of the two cultures. Behind me, you can see the Girgaon Catholic Club established in the year 1894. Now, these kind of clubs were also called as Kuds. When Goan migrants came here, they were mostly from low income backgrounds. They had very little education and few skills. So they could actually find humble accommodation here, network with other Goans living in Mumbai, and find work and a sustenance. So we all know of Bombay as a British colony, right? But did you know that even before the British rule, Bombay was under the influence of the Portuguese, and during this time, they tried to convert a lot of locals to Christianity. Those who refused to convert left Bombay, and so the community that was left behind were the Christians. Now, after the East India Company set up their rule here, they started to hire Christians for different jobs, not only in Bombay but also from the neighboring areas such as Goa, and a lot of Christian migrants started to come in. So in order to differentiate themselves from the incoming migrant communities and to maintain their tag as the original inhabitants of Bombay, this community named itself after the East India Company and called itself East Indians. While exploring Khotachiwadi, here is a quick pit stop that you must make. Now, as you know, all the houses in Khotachiwadi are numbered, and this particular construction numbered 47A is actually an art gallery now, which houses some beautifully curated art exhibitions. If there's one person who can tell you everything you need to know about the history of Khotachiwadi, it's the eminent archaeologist and historian Andre Baptista, who has been born and raised right here in this beautiful village. So I'm here at 47A right now to have a quick conversation with him.
My name is Andre Baptista. I am an archaeologist and art historian. I'm also a visiting consultant and lecturer at a number of colleges in Bombay where I teach archaeology as an elective. But I'm also a fourth generation descendant who happens to call Khotachiwadi his home. So
Okay, so since you said that, and since we've heard that if there's one person who we need to talk to if we want to know about the history of this place, can you elaborate a little bit about the history and the heritage of Khotachiwadi?
sure, Khotachiwadi, let's start with the name. As the name suggests, it belonged to one individual, a member of the Pathare Prabhu community. His name was Dadoba Vamanhari Khot, and that's where Khotachiwadi gets its name. The land was a coconut grove, an extension of the beaches at Chowpatty, and was very much part of the native town that is Girgaon, or Girgaon, village at the foot of the hill, Malaba Hill being the hill. And as Bombay began to grow as a city under colonial rule, all these native towns that were part of the islands of Bombay or Mumbai started to get subsumed into the greater scheme of the urban setup that is Bombay. And Girgaon was one of those native towns. The Khot started to sell off pieces of his land around the late 18th century, and he sold them off to members of the East Indian Christian community. And they bought those pieces of land, they built their houses that would be family or ancestral homes in their own right. And since then, over the last 150, 200 years, we've had generation after generation being born here, being raised here, being raised in the streets, playing in the streets, playing hide and seek. A strong sense of familiarity, of community is definitely very much part of Khotachiwadi's identity today.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see. It's like an oasis. Like when you walk in, it's just, you don't feel like you're in Bombay because the city is so bustling, and this is just like a sanctuary in the middle of all of it. And how has it sustained and how has it remained the same even today?
I mean, yeah, you're walking down this busy Girgaon road, a typical road in Mumbai, Hath gadis all over the place, Kali Pilis honking, traffic, pedestrians, and suddenly you take that unassuming turn into an almost different world. You're transported, and whenever I talk to students over here, I ask them what's their first takeaway from this, and they say, oh, we feel we are in Goa, we feel we are in a different world, a world that's somewhere else in time.
We are here in the heritage village of Khotachiwadi right now, and we are going to give you a sneak peek not just into the famous designer James Pereira's boutique, but also into his home. Come along. Hi James, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So we were just out exploring Khotachiwadi and we couldn't help but notice your house is the prettiest in the neighborhood. So can you tell us a little bit about the house? And we've also heard that you host exclusive dinner experiences here. So a little bit about that as well.
So Khotachiwadi is one of the 189 Gautans which were built by the Portuguese in India. This house is about 220 years ago, and there was a major sort of addition added by my grandfather in 1920. The cruise liners come to Bombay, they come to my home after going to Crawford Market, and Banganga, the heritage tour, concludes in my house where I do a high tea. The local food is not available anywhere, so I decided to do these sit-down dinner experiences where I contemporize East Indian food, and instead of a buffet, I do it on a sit-down with accompanying breads and salads.
Wow, that sounds amazing. That sounds like an experience you should not miss out.
Because I usually serve cocktails, which is a kimad, which is a hot toddy made, which is traditional, but what I have done is made it into a cocktail at the beginning of the meal and as a hot toddy to end the meal.
this was What's Hot Mumbai, making you experience a slice of Goa right here in Bombay. Make sure you make a quick pit stop at Khotachiwadi the next time you're around Choni Road, and I will be back with more such fun content. Until then, you know the drill. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe.